Imagine stepping back into a time when the pace of life was slower, the air felt lighter, and people seemed more connected than ever. A time when one paycheck could cover the bills, put food on the table, and still leave enough for a family road trip. Neighborhoods weren't just streets, were tiny worlds of their own. Kids played until the streetlights blinked on. The sound of church bells carried through Sunday mornings, and everyone recognized the cheerful jingle of the ice cream truck from blocks away. Back then, the average American home cost around $15,000. Can you imagine? It felt like a fortune, but families made it work. One parent usually worked, the other managed the home, and somehow the balance held steady. Saturdays meant mowing the lawn, washing the car, and chatting with neighbors leaning against the fence. The dream of a white picket fence wasn't just an image from TV, it was real. With porches that squeaked when you swung on them, and summers filled with lemonade, fireflies, and laughter. A gallon of gas, barely 30 cents, and you didn't pump it yourself. You'd pull into a station, and attendants in crisp uniforms came running pumping your gas, checking your oil, cleaning your windshield, and maybe even handing you a free road map. No card swipes, no PIN codes, no flashing screens, just coins, small talk, and trust. And cars weren't just machines, they were symbols of freedom. When the Ford Mustang burst onto the scene in 1964, it wasn't just a car, it was rebellion wrapped in steel. Teenagers plastered posters of it on their bedroom walls, and if you knew someone who drove one, they instantly became unforgettable. Families squeezed into big station wagons for road trips, no seatbelts, just blankets, toys, and maybe the family dog in the back. Kids argued over who got the window seat, while parents navigated with paper maps that always seemed to fold the wrong way. The average salary hovered around $7,000 a year. It wasn't glamorous, but it stretched. Groceries, the car, rent, and even a week at the beach could fit under one paycheck. When you brought home something new like a shiny toaster the bank gave you for opening an account, or a color TV, it felt like a milestone. Mornings had their own magic. The clink of glass bottles outside your door meant the milkman had come by. Fresh milk before breakfast, sometimes with a surprise bottle of chocolate milk tucked in for the kids. It was a small joy that made mornings brighter. Lunchboxes were sturdy metal tins decorated with your favorite characters, Superman, Mickey Mouse, or even astronauts. Inside, there'd be a slightly squished sandwich, chips wrapped in wax paper, and maybe a cookie, if you were lucky. The thermos always had that faint smell of milk, no matter what you poured in. Then came history's big moments. Families huddled around black and white TVs with rabbit ear antennas to watch Neil Armstrong's first steps on the moon. The picture was fuzzy, the sound crackled, but no one moved. For one moment, it felt like the entire nation was in the same living room, holding its breath together. But when the Cuban Missile Crisis loomed, radios stayed close. Schools drilled kids to duck and cover, and people looked up at the skies with quiet worry. Tragedy struck, too, the day President Kennedy was shot. Everything froze. Adults cried openly. Kids sensed something was broken, and the nation mourned together through grainy, black and white screens. Television itself was an event. Families rushed home for Bonanza, I Love Lucy, Gunsmoke, or The Ed Sullivan Show. When the Beatles first appeared, teenage girls screamed, parents frowned, and living rooms turned into small concert halls. If you missed an episode, you didn't scroll back. You waited for the rerun. And if the picture flickered, someone stood by the TV, fiddling with the antenna, while someone else shouted, "Hold it there! No! Go back! Right there!" Foil on the antenna, a household classic! And after midnight, TV didn't keep going. The national anthem played. A waving flag filled the screen, and then static. That was the signal. Bedtime. Music wasn't something you scrolled past. It was an experience. Vinyl records spun on family turntables, each scratch telling its own story. Everyone knew which 45 skipped and how to fix it with a coin. Radios clicked as you pushed the buttons, tuning into Elvis, Motown, or the crackling voice of a baseball commentator. Entertainment was everywhere! But it wasn't digital. Pinball machines lit up diners and arcades with bells and flashing lights, eating up nickels one after another. Drive-in theaters turned summer nights, magical cars lined up, speakers hung on windows, popcorn spilling across vinyl seats, and kids drifting to sleep before the movie ended. And who could forget the sound of the ice cream truck? That cheerful jingle cut across neighborhoods like a spell. Kids raced barefoot on hot sidewalks, coins clenched tight in sweaty palms, chasing down rocket pops or push-ups before they melted in the sun. Classrooms clattered with typewriters, cameras flashed with hot bulbs that burned your fingers if you touched them too soon. Ice trays were stubborn metal contraptions that required muscle just to free a cube. Clotheslines stretched across every yard, bedsheets dancing in the breeze like flags of ordinary life. Even the smallest things felt magical. Polaroid pictures developed right in your hand. Drop a Fizzy's tablet into water, and suddenly you had homemade grape soda fizzing to life. Neighbors borrowed sugar without knocking. Kids traded marbles, baseball cards, and comic books at recess. Families gathered for Sunday dinners, shoes polished the night before school. And everyone knew the rule. When the streetlights came on, it was time to go home. News wasn't loud or polarized. When Walter Cronkite appeared on TV, people listened in silence. They trusted what they heard. That was enough. Holidays carried their own charm. Halloween costumes were often homemade bedsheets for ghosts, paper masks that made you sweat, pillowcases stuffed with candy. Christmas sparkled with real tinsel, each strip carefully placed by hand. Families captured it all on shaky 8mm, filmed grainy, silent, but priceless. Living rooms told their own stories. Plastic covers crinkled on couches in the summer heat. Scratchy wool blankets stayed folded in the backseat of every car. Kitchen tables wobbled, but somehow held every meal, every homework session, and every memory. Shopping wasn't about today. Shipping it was an outing. Families went downtown to Woolworth's or the 5-and-dime store, where glass counters displayed candy, toys, and housewares. Teenagers gathered at soda fountains, sipping cherry cokes, sharing jukebox tunes, and carving their names into diner booths. Summer nights glowed with fireflies, while kids chased each other barefoot, their laughter echoing down quiet streets. The 4th of July meant parades with waving flags and candy tossed from floats. Fireworks popped above small-town skies, while kids held sparklers, tracing glowing patterns into the night. It wasn't about expensive trips or viral selfies. It was about being together right there in the moment. Back then, life wasn't perfect. Far from it. But there was rhythm, trust, and a belief that tomorrow could be better. People worried less, connected more, and found joy in the smallest things: a soda bottle cap, the smell of freshly printed mimeograph paper, the jingle of the ice cream truck, or the simple act of neighbors gathering on a porch. If this painted a picture you remember all one, you wish you could have lived then, stick around, because this journey doesn't stop here. The 1970s and 80s are waiting, bursting with disco, arcades, Walkmans, and neon dreams. And trust me, you won't want to miss it.